into it. So I just want to say congratulations on the movie. I've seen it twice now, and
Well,
it's probably one of the better documentaries I've seen. I really love this movie. So I saw it in London, and then I watched it in preparation for this, and it's just an excellent documentary. So congratulations to you both
thank you.
on that success. Uh, so kind of like my first question, it might be directed more to Sam in this regards, but I just think I want to know, but like, why have all the online games? What appealed to you about GTA?
Um, well, it's just that when I started playing it, I just found I was really uh, surprised, I think, and I think yeah. So having not played it before, I was obviously aware of it. Like I think everyone is. It's got such a notoriety.
Mhm.
It's such a massive kind of cultural phenomenon, and you have these ideas about what it is. And then when I started playing it, I was just so struck by how beautiful it was, and how exciting it was to be in that space.
Mhm.
I think it's something about the way it works so well as an online space is really good because it's obviously been around for a long time and had a lot of resources put into it. And it's really fun. I really like the aesthetic of it as well. I think it's
Mhm.
really, yeah, it's beautiful, and that mix of the kind of violence and the beauty.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and I felt it was very kind of Shakespearean, funnily
Yeah.
enough.
Uh,
Um, yeah,
yeah, and because you bring up like the notoriety of it, especially for because you're both the directors and on this project, I think with a lot of mainstream news focus is kind of like on the negative aspects of online gaming culture, uh, and some of it is valid, some of it's not necessarily. And I think in particular, GTA gets a lot of scrutiny from the mainstream media due to its content, and how violent it is, and whatever like that. So how important was it to you, for both of you, to show like kind of the more positive aspects of like online gaming and the communal aspect around that?
I think it's really important because I think I definitely had some preconceptions around like gaming and the kind of people who play games. And I realized actually community is a massive part of gaming, and I think that's why more people play games and go to the cinema. Ultimately, it's a place to hang out with your friends, it's a place to have fun, but it's also a place that you can like be creative. And I think that when we sort of it almost like threw the hat into the ring and said, "Hey guys, do you want to come on this adventure with us?" And we met all these people that essentially said yes to this crazy idea.
Mhm.
We were kind of like really in the end because we initially didn't think anybody interested, and actually you see in the film like all these people basically rejecting it.
mm,
But that you kept on going and you did find your people, and it just built from there, and it was really heartwarming, that people also came to the stage, literally came to the stage in the audition sequence, for instance, and like gave us something, and like with Parteb Mosmir turning up and then offered a bit of the Quran, which is from his own culture and was his poetry that he learned as a child, and I think that was really moving because I was really moved that you had created an atmosphere in this project where people could do that.
mm. Yeah, and I think generally there's this kind of idea that a lot of people have about video games that they're sort of low culture as opposed to the high culture of
Mhm.
kind of classical theatre. And we really wanted to kind of smash down that idea, basically, that there were these the things that existed on separate poles of a supposed kind of spectrum of respectability in art or something. And the fact to say that actually, look, this game is yeah, okay, it is a kind of violent space, but it's also very fun, it's very sophisticated, it's beautiful, and it's a very valid cultural art form that deserves to be seen on a level with theatre as a whole, and why shouldn't it be,
Yeah, and you bring up that communal aspect, and how you brought all these people together, and a sort of thing that I really want to ask about, because you credit both, depending on the person, their screen name and their real name, and in the audition process. So what was that like about asking those questions about if they're comfortable, developing their real name, were you just cool people going by their screen names? What was that kind of process around that?
I think that whenever you make a documentary, you have to get access. You essentially have to make sure that everybody who's being filmed knows they're being filmed, and also you have to ask them, how do you want to be known? And in the auditions, when we met a lot of the characters, we did ask them that, and or if we met random people, we said, look, by the way, we're making a documentary. This is what this is. The documentary is about us making a, production of Hamlet. If you don't want to be involved, just let us know. And, so it was kind of like being respectful, I guess, of like how people want to be represented, and how they want to be known, and, whether they want to be anonymous or whether they want to be, or whatever. That was up to them,
Yeah, and in regards to this, especially with that audition process, was there any surprises from the people that showed up that really shocked you or blew you away?
I mean, first of all, that anyone turned up at all, that was the big first surprise. And then the fact that right from the first one, when DJ Phil turned up and suddenly it was just the fact that it was worked and it was beautiful and it was interesting and revealing of something of her own true character through doing this Shakespeare speech was, it was amazing. And then obviously, I guess the biggest surprise, without wanting to give anything too much away, was Parteb in the auditions.
Yeah.
How he turned up, and you expect this absolute kind of carnage and chaos, and you do get that. Yeah. But then he brings something else of a kind of beauty and stillness, and again, a truth to his own personality, which was.
And we had a real mix of kind of actors and non-actors taking part. So some of them were professional actors, like Lizzie and Gareth, and of course you and Mark. But there was definitely there's people like Nora and people who turned up who, were just kind of up for it. And I like that because of this idea of we wanted to be inclusive of everybody. And also,
and it's the way they all responded to each other as well. Like that moment when Parteb is watching Lizzie's audition, and it's been just really disruptive so far, and then he just suddenly is like, wow, that really got me, and he's someone who's not, you wouldn't expect to have been kind of taken in by this, and that was a really amazing moment. I think the fact that the other people who turned up to audition were watching each other audition and responding in this amazing supportive way, and I thought then we're really building something here.
Yeah, I think because after I saw it from London, when we came out, we all loved Parteb. That's who we loved. Other random characters, and in the Lizzie moments, just to remember, it's the scene with I have ADHD, but I was just so taken away. I was so kept. It's so funny and so lovely at the same time, if that makes sense. And you do a good job of being humorous and serious at the same time. How was that striking that balance to make sure that it is both a very serious film when it needs to be serious and also funny?
I mean, I do think that as British people, we're quite good at that. We're all quite good at that, aren't we? We're good at not taking ourselves too seriously. And often we use humour to talk about difficult things. Mark is a very funny person, but he's also quite good at, he's always taking the piss out of himself in a way, but he's also an emotional person and like a human. And so, it's I do think that in a funny kind of way, actually, this film is really popular in America. People in America, the audiences loved it. I was amazed at the premiere of South by Southwest. But I think it's because they like British humour, this kind of slightly Withnail and I kind of sort of taking kind of self-critical, you know what I mean? But at the same time, kind of quite dry. And I think you and Mark are a real good double act, actually.
It was funny because bit of funny story. I actually met Mark after this press screening of it. It was a really weird story. Me and my friend, because we were waiting to go and see the Christopher Reeves documentary, and he was behind us, and we didn't recognise him, and we're like, he asked us, like, because we're talking to another critic friend of ours, like, oh, what did you see with Groundhog Day? And we loved it. And he speaks, oh, what did you think about it? And I go, why do I recognize this voice? And it didn't
He's
click
got
to me till I was
yeah.
on IMDb, like, oh, wait, that's the guy that we just watched for 90 minutes. And then we're speaking to him at the Christopher Reeve show, and yeah, it was cool to get to see him as well. Because you're all just you see this in kind of, you're just like a good bunch of people, and you're doing this, truly wonderful thing. I think that's really captivated in the film. But talk about the positive and negatives of the film. I think what this film really highlights is kind of, which sounds weird to say, but the positive and negatives of the pandemic. Because you show like how people made connections from all over the world. I know that I met some of my great friends from during the pandemic playing video games, and you talk about the unique art that's created during this time, but you also showcase the isolation and the and a scene that really gets to me was the real job scene when you talk about the ballerina advert. It's like learning to code, and you talk about how you are the ballerina. So how was it important to show like both sides of that dynamic?
It had to be shown. I mean, I think, we were escaping inside this digital world, but of course the real world did bleed in. Mark loses his last living relative while we're shooting the film. And, I feel like this sense of separation with Sam because he's online all the time and I'm looking after the kids, and I don't feel like he's really engaging as a father and a husband. And so I do think it's interesting because I think the digital world, the pandemic was about being separated and being kind of, this idea of togetherness couldn't happen in the usual way, and so I didn't want to sort of be too heavy-handed with that whole thing. I didn't want it to underline it too many times or be analysing it too much in the film, but I think it's there. I think it just comes out, in kind of like ordinariness.
And it was that messy kind of complexity of that time where it was difficult, to work out relationships with people, and not only during the pandemic but afterwards, coming out of it as well. It's like it was sort of this weird moment of transition that it was kind of messy, and I guess we wanted to kind of reflect that, which it had good positive moments and negative moments as well.
Yeah, and a big thing about, because it's filmed entirely in GTA apart from the small bits at the end. So what was that like for both of you to kind of learn a new cinematic language in a way? Because it's, you can only really get shots where your main character can go in. It's very limited in what you can do in that regard.
Yeah, but I think that there was quite a lot of useful tools that you can use inside the game, and obviously you have a choice as to whether you put your avatar into the shot or you have a first-person point of view. One of the issues, of course, is like not making it feel too hectic to watch, because obviously if you watch YouTube you'll see endless hours of people gaming and it is quite hectic, and if you're under 15 years old you can probably watch that for hours and not feel sick. If you're going to watch it on the movie screen, you need to come up with something a little bit sort of more cinematic, something a little bit more still, and I think using the in-game phone I was able to make like close-ups which enabled to get some emotion into the avatars. So there was little things that I learned along the way, and I also did lots of kind of nature photography. I went off and like filmed like just different, like the landscapes in different times of day and light, and it's an incredibly stunning environment, and it really does lend itself to that sense of cinema, that sense of sort of the magic hour. They've got these, the way the light changes is incredible. And even the design of the non-playable characters, their little scripts that they say, and the way you can use them as kind of almost like reflections of what the main character's emotions are, because they're watching you as you're talking. And there was lots of little devices that I found that were like allowed the storytelling. It was really enjoyable actually trying it out, because I felt like there's not a lot of machinima films that have done that, you know what I mean? So in a way, it's quite good because you can kind of do what you want. Like, there's no, try new things and be creative.
Yeah, especially because I think for a lot of people, I don't want to say the closest comparison, but maybe the closest comparison for people how using in-game stuff is Red versus Blue, the Halo one. So it's really interesting, but that's all fictional. It's not really a documentary. And, there's a lot of moments tying into where you show real expression. Was there's any moment where, like, it was hard to, like, convey your true emotions through the video game, or was it was just easy because it just felt like you're talking to someone?
Well, you have the voice recording, and then obviously you have the avatar moving its head and its mouth. And so, sometimes it's just serendipitous that the two things, that kind of somehow emotion it conveys emotion. I think the human brain does this thing where we connect and we make meaning, where it was just random, actually. But, it does happen, doesn't it? And so it's just looking for moments in the edit where there was footage that did that, and that did seem to kind of have some emotion to it,
And kind of like going from the last couple of questions is, have you ever gone back to GTA now that this is all done? Because it's probably a lot of work. You probably strip through hours of footage, and then you had to record it all. Like, have you ever gone back and just robbed a few banks here and there, had a good time?
Yeah, I do. I pop in there every now and then. So it's a fun space to do that in, and just go and check out the latest update, or is there a new mission to do? Pop in there occasionally.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to the new version that's coming out at some point. I don't know when.
whenever Rockstar don't get hacked, I guess. There's a lot of issues with that. Because it's quite a personal film for me, because I met a lot of my friends. We played a lot for GTA. We played like the sumo mode, which is like you play sumo with cars.
I like that.
God damn it!
Get in.
I'm not gonna get in from this.
Well, you yeeted me.
You were sideways on the only path to victory.
You didn't have to hit me as hard as you could.
I didn't hit you on purpose.
Go. Brutalization of mono there. That was pretty awesome.
And it's insane. It's really dumb. But it was really cool to see what other wondrous things happen in GTA. And kind of the last question that I want to really ask is at the end, you kind of see, it does win an award, the theatrical production of it. So what was it like knowing that both that was a success, and now we're seeing that the film's also now been, a huge success?
I mean, it blows our mind, really. We obviously worked really hard on both things, so you hope that people will like what you've done. But in a way, it was enough that we'd done it and that we felt happy with it. So of course, it's just amazing that other people have enjoyed it, and that people like you have watched it and got so much more out of it. I always think it's like when you make a film, it's a bit like having a baby, in that you make it and then you put it out into the world, and then it has its own relationship as a grown-up or as a grown-up child with its audience, with the people. And it's kind of nice that people have brought so much, the audience have brought so much of their own experience.
It's really exciting to see that, and it really is now going to go out into the world with our cinema release, and so we just hope that people go and see it and and enjoy it and have an experience like you've had watching it.
I think it's worth seeing in the cinema. I don't know what you've seen, because you've seen both, right?
Yeah, I saw it at cinema and at home. Yeah, it's much better in a cinema.
Because you've got that communal aspect, going to see it with other people as well, which is really...
because
it's a comedy, essentially, a comedy adventure story. So when you're laughing at the same time with other people in the audience, is a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah, because I think when you talk about the communal aspect, the opening is a real tone setter, because you show the two people walking next to each other, the same character models, but they have different outfits. And it sets and everyone just in the audience was laughing at that moment, because we know about, I think a lot of people, I don't have to know gamers, but they know the limitations of gaming. So it's seeing on a big screen, people recreate the dumb moments, whether it be buying, trying to buy those planes and try and get them up the airport in one piece, or there's so many moments, like the escaping the police, and then there's like the opening with the golf cart where it's just a flip. It's like all that is just like really gets a laugh. We got a laugh at the press screen crowd that I saw it with. It was, even for a 9 o'clock showing, it was an absolute riot. So, but thank you both for so much for speaking to me. I really loved the film, and I'm glad I was able to speak to you about it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
It's really nice talking to you. All right.
So, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.